That's also hiding the 5 civilized tribes, which is really you. And we ain't Indians either.
The reason why I'm asking that is because I want to know for certain, because I'm going...
This is what it is. And I think I understand where you're coming from. Once we begin to learn more about what Drew Ali left for us to study, what he is telling us literally is to prepare ourselves so that we can take our places in world affairs. Really. He didn't bring this knowledge for us to sit around and pray and feel like good believers. He came to make us better citizens, to bring us into constitutional fold of government, to become active and not passive members of society, to be productive in industry, to be productive with schools, agriculture, governing our families, getting our houses in order, for real, not because we said it, because we can repeat it because it's in the Holy Quran, feeling good about ourselves, patting on our back, and then going out here suffering all kind of nigger problems. You know, we come to the temples and we feel all good about ourselves, and Monday morning we go into some nigger line to pay some foreigner some fines for our right to travel on our own land. That's not so bad as we don't know the knowledge on how to defend ourselves relative to our birthright. We don't recognize their obligations to us. We need to understand why Noble Drew Ali say, enforce that Constitution. That's Moorish law. That Constitution is not English law. One of the games we were talking about on the way over here, one of the tricks of stealing the Moorish birthrights was to convince Moors that they had nothing to do with that Constitution. To convince Moors that that great seal that they see on that dollar bill is European. And so we disconnect. And by us disconnecting, we actually volunteer or abandon our government. They got their name on us, and so they claim that we have abandoned it. And so they're caretakers of people who have amnesia. And that's legal. That's lawful. They're not really outside the law. We are. And so it is we who need to be redeemed. The European already knows this knowledge. And a lot of them really trying to help. It's just that you can't trust all them forms. But all of them, Europeans in general, are not dumb of the Great Seal. They know the Great Seal is you. But when we come into this movement, many people think that we came in this movement just to pray. Or to have some secularism of Islam. There is no secularism in Islam. It is under the corruption, but in reality, there is not. Now, when you become, how would you say, adept. And adept means expert. When you are adept, that means you are master. So if you were to give, I wish we had a chalkboard, if you were to give a brother or a sister a circle 7, just like you have in your Holy Quran, right? So you give them circle 7. And they say, oh, wow, these are the ancient teachings of the ancient Moabites that they took to Tibet to keep the Christians from burning this information. So they took these lessons to Tibet, and they've been protected. And so for years they had the wall up there in China and around Tibet, and the Crusaders couldn't get to everything. They were locked, but most of the world they got to most of the world with the Crusades, and they burned up all kinds of ancient literature. And so when people see the Quran, the Holy Quran of Moor Science Temple, those who know that they are chosen lessons from the ancient Moabite scripts. They are keys. They're not all the lessons. They're keys of ancient lessons. Is there a stand for that here? Yes, right here. Now, so if I say to you, if I come to you and I hold the Holy Quran up, and you say, oh, and I ask you what that is, and you say circle 7. Well, you recognize it because you're looking at the symbol. Am I correct? Now, if I say to you, now work it, now I'm not asking you what it is, I'm asking you to be the scientist. So then I say, well, give me the 7 thrice great principles of what that 7 represents. Then if you can't tell me what it represents, then you don't know your science. You're Moorish American, but you're not a Moorish scientist. I mean, do you understand that? Now, so the prophet said, now every temple must have a school. The reason why the prophet set it up like that, because everything cannot be taught across the temple floor. The temple's not designed for that. The temple is designed as a public relations arm to bring people into this divine and national movement. And we have a body of order in which this information is to be dispensed. But you're to have a school so that the additional information may be accommodated. The great sellout was when those who knew and were trying to undermine the prophet stole all the finance and undermined the movement in order for that not to take place, so that we would be doing this battle that we're doing right now, trying to reach out to the public and put this movement back on the front burner where it should have been generations ago. It should be common knowledge. There's nothing about Noble Drew Ali that the general public should not know like that. Whether they are in this movement or not, it should be common knowledge just like that. They should be able to run it off. Furthermore, they should know that Negro, black, and colored, etc. are not just misnomers in historical interest or something contrary to truth relative to that, but it is actually a violation of law. If they understood that from a lawful position, for those who know law, they would seek to correct it on their own without even knowing anything about the Moorish movement. If they knew that much, which is why you see a lot of movement taking place across this country and on the islands right now, is because there's given to them from that perspective, so they can look at this movement how they should have looked at it a long time ago and recognize it is their salvation for real, not whether they believed it or not. Because they recognize in the existence of the corporate person, and they recognize that they have no rights in that status, and that they need to fix that. So now, you come into the movement and you're given a hyphen Bey, right? Hyphen eel. So if the prophet came and he, we was at a party, right? Now I'm dressed casually because it's raining, right? So I got sneaks on. So one's a Nike and one's Adidas. Right? So I think I'm heavy, I'm happening, But somebody know better say, brother, the shoes don't match, brother. Now if I get insulted, I'm, man, what you talking about, my shoes don't match? They look good to me. One's going that way and one's, one's high, one's low. Now so the prophet gives you your title back. And then you begin to study. And you come from belief to faith. And you become stronger. Then you study. And then you become to the level of fruition, which you become what you know, which means you understand this thing. You don't need belief. Doesn't mean somebody coming in doesn't need belief. You don't need belief because you're no longer a slave. You're not a slave to the ignorance. You don't need that. You need that crutch to begin. So now if you know who you are, you know doggone well you're not Williams. You're not Fredericks. But it's incumbent upon you to fix the rest of it. The prophet said the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you'd go back to sleep. But if you understood this thing, you'll become active and stop being passive, and you would start doing those things necessary to become better citizens. And that would not remain as a mere empty statement, but it would be accented by your activity in the communities with your people. Because the nation is out there. This is not a club. Our problem is we've been treating it like a club. And no one has challenged us to do better. And so we felt uncomfortable, but what we have done, we've relegated our children to servitude through contracts. And they don't even understand how the birthright is stolen because they don't even know what birthright is. You challenge them to say, explain to me what birthright is. And they'll make the statement, but they can't defend it. Oh, yes, all right. Now, as an example,